Hi guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have another episode of This Year in Perfume, and we're going to focus on the year 1991. We're obviously going in order. Last episode of This Year in Perfume was 1990. So goes to reason, this episode is 1991. And I've got more fragrances than I thought. I thought as we went into the 90s, maybe my collection would start to dwindle and we'd have to aggregate some of these years together. But luckily, that has not happened, at least not yet. I'm sure as we get into the middle of the 90s, that might take place. But we're going strong here. I've got a couple on this side and a couple on this side of the table. And as has become customary, before we hop into it, I'm going to discuss what was going on in 1991, famous movies and all that good stuff. But I wanted to show you my shirt because there was a discussion happening on Rich Mitch's stream yesterday. If for however reason, if you ended up being a subscriber to my channel and you're not a subscriber to Rich Mitch, go subscribe to his channel. Probably all you guys are subscribers of me because of Rich Mitch. But we were talking about bands, and so I wore one of my favorite bands t-shirts, REM. They were probably big in 1991. But before we hop into it, let's talk about what was going on. So two main events really jumped out to me. Number one, in 1991, the Hubble telescope was launched, and number two, the beginning of the Iraq War was launched, and that was one of the first wars that was almost nationally televised. You could watch it from your couch and see what was going on. Of course, other things happened. There was a failed coup in the Kremlin and a bunch of other things happening. But those two are easy to, touch on, the start of the Iraq War and Hubble, which put out some amazing pictures to us. Now, as far as songs, I looked up some number one. Someone made a good point earlier. They said number one songs don't really represent what was really going on in the year, and I agree with that. There's songs like, what do we have here? We've got Bryan Adams, Everything I Do It For You. I was gonna sing it, but I got my brain took over and stopped, thank God. And then we've got, what else do we have? We have, When a Man Loves a Woman, Michael Bolton. There's another one you could probably bust out into a song. Black or White by Michael Jackson. Okay, so here is the movie list. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. The Silence of the Lambs. There's a good one. City Slickers, The Addams Family. Those were all released in 91. Sleeping with the Enemy, Naked Gun 2.5. Those were great movies. I love those older comic, like Mel Brooks movies and stuff like that. Back when, back when you could actually do a comedy and everyone wasn't offended at something. That's one of the things I actually do miss about the movies. I miss being able to go to a comedy and not, and actually see a real comedy. But I think those days are gone. We'll have to live off of the past. We'll have to live off of Spaceballs and History of the World and all that good stuff. Okay, let's get to the fragrances. So the first one, let's do Scent of the Day first. And this might surprise you a little bit. It surprised me when I wanted to wear it, actually, because, well, I'll tell you why I wanted to wear this. I wore Frank Bacla Tobacco to bed last night. So I kind of got into a tobacco mood, and I realized I hadn't worn this all year. And so I figured I better give it a wear before it gets hot. Don't crucify me. It is Herod from Parfums de Marly. And I don't like this fragrance, and I like it at the same time, if that makes sense. So what you get is you get this very sweet, almost gourmand feeling tobacco. Now, it has some elements that I like. For example, it has the osmanthus, which is a flower that smells like a nectarine or a peach. It has this cypriol note, which I like. And I actually do like the tobacco note in here. If you just isolated the tobacco note and took it out, I like it. There's some frankincense, some olibanum to give off a little bit of that piney, oily, incensey feel, but it's not like burned frankincense. It's almost like dry frankincense plucked off of the tree. And then the tobacco. Osmanthus and tobacco work beautifully in this fragrance. Now, what I don't like about this fragrance, the heavy use of musks and isoe super, and probably all the other iso molecules, because this thing pushes and it's heavy. And today it's going to be 55 high in Texas, so the weather's going to start creeping up. It's going to be 80 next week. So that's how it goes in Texas, from freezing to 80 right away. So I figured I better wear this before I can't wear it anymore. So I got to wear in, and I'm of two minds, because there are pieces of this fragrance that I really like, and then there are pieces of it that I absolutely despise, especially the sweetness. If the sweetness was toned down, and they maybe found something else to do with it to, add some depth rather than just sweet, I think I would really like this fragrance. But then again, if I had to wear sweet fragrances, it would be sweet tobacco fragrances. Like, for example, I like Tobacco Vanille. That's a sweet tobacco fragrance. I like Vanille Havane has grown on me. That's one that I was a little harsh on the first time I've smelled it. I've worn it to bed a couple times since then, and it has kind of grown on me. The ingredients are very good in Vanille Havane from Les Indemodables. And I like Amen's Pure Havane as well. That is another one. That's another sweet honey type tobacco. So, if I had to pick sweet fragrances, it would probably be mixed with tobacco, but this is just a little too sweet for my personal taste. You might love it. People around you will probably really like it because it's very easy to like. If you care about compliments and stuff, this might be one to check out. But this is probably for me a once a year thing. Just to visit it. When I get a tobacco urge, I'll wear it, but I probably will not be buying another bottle once that's gone. And it's nowhere near gone. I've only worn it maybe 3 or 4 times since I've had it. Okay, now we are going to jump into the 1991 fragrances, and we're going to start with an absolute banger, an absolute hidden gem of hidden gem to a point. I hear people talk about this. In fact, Chris from Scentland said people are constantly on him to get this fragrance because he does not have it. And I was blown away. I have a fragrance Chris from Scentland does not have. That's unbelievable. The Green Juice. By the way, if you know what this is off of just first show, good for you. This is Romeo Gigli per Uomo. Here, I'll show you the name. Let's see if I can show you the name without spilling it everywhere, because it is a splash. There it is, Romeo Gigli per Uomo. Now, it has this cool little cap. There's the little piece, and it just pops open like so. Now, so pleasant. Okay, so, if you looked at the color of the juice, you would think this is like some sort of polo green, SAR. It's not. It's almost like you took some sort of almost like a modern take on a fougere, if you will. There is some lavender in here. There's some fruity notes as well. There's plum. There's Brazilian rosewood. There's lemon tree. Not lemon, but lemon tree. I don't know exactly how you put a lemon tree in here, but it does say lemon tree. There's balsam fir, so it is a little bit green, but what makes this fragrance just completely throw everybody, where it takes a left turn, is there's honey, there's cinnamon, there's benzoin, there's amber, there's vanilla, there's tonka. Those are all oriental notes. So it's almost like you took this spicy fougere type thing and just blended it together with a oriental to create something frankly pretty amazing. This is a little 50 ml bottle, and the thing about it is I got this is the only vintage bottle that Anuj from Enchanté Perfume said he had. the last one. All the new ones are modern formulations. So I said I had to get it since it's the vintage, and I'm glad I did. I really enjoy it. I will be doing a highlighted video on this fragrance one day as I've had a chance to give it more wears and stuff. It might be a little bit hard this season, unless I just wear it in the summertime a couple times and do a video for you guys. But what's going to shock you, this came out in 1991. Obviously, it wouldn't be on the list. Wouldn't be on the 1991 list if it didn't come out in 1991, now would it? And the perfumer is Alberto Morias. Now, he's done thousands of fragrances, but some of his earlier stuff I've actually really liked. There's one from 1978. Now, we're going way back, called Café Homme. I can't think of it right now. It'll come to me. I'll show you guys one day if I haven't, if I haven't already. But his older stuff is actually pretty good. It's once the 2000s rolled around and he had to start popping stuff out, you know, as the times changed and he changed. I'll do a perfumer's portfolio video on Alberto Morias, believe it or not. Every main perfumer deserves one, even one like Alberto Morias to me. So I can show off some stuff like this, some stuff that absolutely deserves to be talked about. You know, people just destroy Alberto Morias for the stuff he puts out, and some of it is rightly so, rightly deserved. But then on the other hand, I think about, is he just doing what these companies ask him? You know, they're paying him 30 or 40 grand to create this perfume. They want it done in a month. How much can he do? You know, I mean, it's not like he can create the Mona Lisa in a month. And so I think he's just kind of adapting with the times, if you will. But I'm sure this took him more than a month to make in 1991. This is a pretty interesting creation. It's very unique. It actually does the exact thing people give him a hard time for. It is unique. There's aldehydes in the top, which are beautiful, by the way, in this fragrance. It's spicy and citrusy. If I didn't mention it, there's grapefruit, bergamot, and orange. And then there's that lemon tree accord, which I'd like to know what that is. What is lemon tree? Is it like a lemon leaf thing? Is it, I'm not sure. Is it bark? What type of accord from a lemon tree are we talking about? The aura of a lemon tree? And then there's plum, there's carnation, there's balsam fir, there's honey, there's ginger, jasmine, rose, cinnamon, benzoin, amber, oak moss, musk, patchouli, sandalwood, styrax, tonka, vanilla, and cedarwood. So it's a complex fragrance, but it basically gives off this fougere oriental mixture. Very interesting take. And apparently you really have to get the vintage to truly experience it, because the oak moss, and you know, it was toned down a bit. It was reformulated as the years went by, and now I think it's completely discontinued anyways. But Anuj has some of these little gems, and I bought this completely blind, completely out of the blue, just based on some research. And I'll tell you what, some of these old fragrances from 30, 40 years ago, even the ones that I didn't know about, when I buy them, they tend to work out. I mean, these old fragrances are amazing. You know, it's almost, it shocks you with how good they are. And so this is the reason why people, you know, really become vintage hunters, because they smell something new. They smell the 20th Xerjoff release that they've released this year, and they go, screw that, I'll just go buy this for 50 bucks, you know, or whatever it is. So, you know, but put this on the list. If you're a vintage lover like I am, put Romeo, Gigli per Uomo on the to smell list. I think you will be pleasantly surprised. Okay, so this is kind of one that harkens more, maybe a little bit back to the 80s, and then we're going to go to one that harkens a little bit forward to the 1990s. And this is a release from the house of Kenzo, and it's called Kenzo Pour Homme in the bamboo bottle. And Kenzo Pour Homme is a little bit of a aquatic, if you will, but I don't really think it's an aquatic. I think it's more hinting towards that. It has this ozonic type feel, you know, almost like it's almost like having a marine feel without being aquatic, if that makes sense. Because there's some citruses, there's some fruits, There's some definitely floral. You get the florals for sure. There's jasmine, there's iris, there's lily of the valley, and then there's peach. There's juniper, so it's fresh. There's some rose, cedar, moss, musk, ambergris, and sandalwood. To be honest, I would much rather wear something like this on a hot Texas day than I would one of the blue fragrances, you know. It's just, it's a little bit more interesting. And this is perfect for your back pocket. You can just throw this in this little 30 ml in your back pocket and go if you want. But you do have to be okay with that ozonic, fresh type fragrance profile. I'm not the biggest fan of it, to be honest with you, but if I had to pick a handful, this would be in the list. I like this. I like Aralfa, you know, some stuff like that I can wear in the super high heat. And Kenzo Pour Homme is definitely one to put on the list, and it smells masculine. You know, it smells. There's ambergris in here. Well, there's ambergris, probably ambroxan, ambrine, or whatever synthetic notes they're using. But it's good. It's a good fragrance for what it is, and it's not super expensive. If you can get an older bottle, do so. The really older bottles, I think, look like have like detailing on the bottle. It's not just a plain bottle. There's detailing on them. So that's Kenzo Pour Homme. And then I'm going to show you a fragrance. I actually have a mini vintage bottle of this. Anuj sent me in one of my hauls a year ago or so. And this is called Red by Giorgio Beverly Hills. Okay, now, this is a super cheapie right now. This is the modern formulation by EA, and I have the vintage. I'm going to do a comparison video for you guys one day. What's interesting is some people compare this to Patel Pour Homme. They say this is like a cheaper version of Patel Pour Homme. I will tell you that when it comes to the modern version, I would say no. That's not true at all. The vintage, if you can find an older vintage bottle, it maybe gets you a little bit closer to it, but this is a pretty complex fragrance. And I'll tell you, some reviewers don't like it. Like I noticed Kellen from Sense of South Jersey absolutely destroyed this fragrance. And the new version maybe is justified, although I think this is now discontinued, if I'm not mistaken. The whole thing, even the modern version, I think is discontinued. But it's Artemisia, it's basil, it's bergamot, it's caraway. There's carnation, there's geranium, there's jasmine, there's rose, there's thyme, there's juniper, there's amber, there's oak moss, there's leather, there's patchouli, and there's cedar. Actually, my kind of fragrance from the notes. I just feel like the reformulation, now that I've smelled the vintage and I have it, and I'll do a side-by-side comparison video for you guys one day. I do feel like the reformulation has left something to be desired, you know. It wasn't done very well. It definitely could have been done better. Is this worth more than 20 bucks for this 100 ml bottle? Probably not. You know, I mean, it's for a cheapie. If you just want something masculine, the modern is okay, but if you can find the vintage version that actually, see how it says EA fragrances right here? I should have grabbed the vintage so I could show you guys too. But the one that says Giorgio Beverly Hills copyright underneath, that's the one that you want, not EA. If you can find the older ones that are before EA, they're very good. Very, very good. Great fragrance, actually. I wish I had a full bottle of the vintage. But it's a masculine fragrance, harkens back to the 80s. You know, the leather in this might remind you a little bit of Darby, a little bit of Patel Pour Homme. It's in that genre, but with much cheaper ingredients. Obviously, there's no real Mysore sandalwood in this, like Patel Pour Homme, and it's nowhere near Darby level. Darby is a you know, Darby is a top 10 classic masculine fragrance for me. But good fragrance still, and I like the composition. I just think that the reformulation leaves a lot to be desired, let's say. Okay, now we're going to go to a recent acquisition. I'm so glad I got this fragrance too. And I got lucky because the person that sent it to me sent me one EDT and one EDP. I didn't realize that was going to happen. So it saved me having to then buy the EDP because I was going to do a comparison video for you guys one day, which I will do. And this is a fragrance called Krazy Krizia. Now, this is the EDT, the Eau de Toilette. You can see it has the gold here. The EDP does not have the gold there. It's clear, it's see-through. Just the top of the apple, if you will, is gold. I like the presentation, although I'm not sure what this leaf thing has to do with the fragrance at all. But it is a Dominique Ropion creation, believe it or not. And I'll tell you what's so amazing about this fragrance, and just off of, you know, wearing it to bed and first impression kind of thing, I prefer the EDP. Tonka's a note that I sometimes go nose blind to. I go anosmic to Tonka sometimes. The EDP, the Eau de Parfum, is a little bit stronger. It's thicker, like an Eau de Parfum should be. If you look at the two fragrances so here's the EDT, and here's the EDP. And if you look at the two fragrances in Parfumo or something, you'll notice that the notes are identical. There's no difference in the notes. So all they did is they really amped it up. They amped up the strength and longevity and all that stuff on the EDP. So if I had a chance again, I would probably just forego the EDT and go for the EDP. But what's so amazing about this fragrance is it gives you this, you know, this came out in 91. In the mid 80s, Obsession, excuse me, Obsession by Calvin Klein was huge, right? So it gives you this kind of powdery oriental thing going. But it also adds this fruity element that you don't really get in Obsession, or at least I didn't in the version that I smelled. But I think the bottle of Women's Obsession that I bought had turned. So if there's some fruits in there, please forgive me. But the fruits here are amazing. There's this gorgeous peach note, and it's contrasted with galbanum. So you get this green, fruity opening that almost reminds you of Must de Cartier Parfum for women. And then it just goes down into this beautiful labdanum, amber, tonka. This is probably one of the best tonka bean fragrances in my collection. This, Tonka Imperial, and Fortitude by Robert Graham are some that I really like. Fève Delicious I own. That's one that if I ever did sell fragrances, I might sell it. It's so sweet and goopy and hard for me to wear kind of thing. But I would much rather wear this over Fève Delicious. I would even much rather wear this over Tonka Imperial, I think. And that's saying a lot. This is an amazing composition by Dominique Ropion. It's funny, people will pay thousands of dollars for his Frederick Malle work, but they won't pay $50 for a fragrance like this. This is unbelievable. This is an amazing Tonka fragrance. Krizia as a house has really surprised me. Honestly, I am very impressed with their creations. This, Teatro alla Scala, especially Teatro alla Scala, is unbelievably beautiful. And then Moods, Uomo, of course, amazing patchouli. Great house. Okay, now we're going to go to one that I don't have very much experience with. In fact, I should probably spray it. Here, let me show it to you. It's a fragrance called Balestra Pour Homme. So I was waiting for this summer to come around to really wear it. So this is a reformulated version by the house of Waruska and Joel. You can see right there. And let's see if I can give this a spray. Let me see if I can throw some on here. It's been a while since I've had a chance to smell this. Okay, so what you get is you get this very fresh opening. It says there's Indian sandalwood here. I'm not sure what that means, if that means... I wouldn't guess there is Mysore sandalwood in this off of first smell. Maybe in the original from 1979. This reformulated bottle, maybe not. This is discontinued, by the way. But it's basically this peppery, woody, a little bit of florals. It says there's orange blossom and mastic and narrowly and bitter orange blossom and African geranium. There's also Tonkin musk, ambergris, and castoreum. The thing about it is I don't get very much of the dirty notes. I think if I got more of the dirty ambergris and castoreum, I would like it more. To me, this just smells very fresh, maybe a little sweet. Something is sweetening it a bit. But not sweet like, you know, modern masculine fragrances or anything. And I think this will be great for the summer if you just want something kind of citrusy. The problem is those kind of citrus fragrances, even though this is more interesting, more dynamic, it changes a little bit more from, you know, I don't even think I've given this a full wear. I think I've only worn this to bed. But I'll give this a full wear once it gets hot in Texas and report back. It's just, it's almost like the anti-frag head fragrance. You know, it's clean and it's clean and easy to wear kind of thing, even for a vintage. I thought it was going to be more dirty. I don't get very much castoreum at all. Okay, so that's Balestra Pour Homme. That was 1990. The reformulated one, by the way, I should say, is 1991. The original one is 1979, so that's why I'm showing this in 1991. Okay, so that's a little bit of a cheat, but that's okay. And then we're going to go to another discontinued fragrance, and this is from the house of Lancetti, and it's called Il de Lancetti. Il de Lancetti. And this is supposed to be a spicy, leathery fragrance, but what I get is, here, let me put this to the side so I know what's what. Let me spray this for you guys, too, because it's been a while since I've smelled this as well. These fresher fragrances, obviously, I don't wear in the winter. Okay, so it starts out very green. You instantly get that lavender, and it mixes with the artemisia and the anise and the basil. There's aldehydes, clary sage, coriander, and then the base is moss, musk, leather, amber, vetiver, and cedar. Another fragrance that, even though there's leather and stuff like that in it, probably this is going to be more of a spring, summer wear for me. It is, while it has some spice to it, it's just not heavy enough to carry itself in the cold, in my opinion. It is a good fragrance. It was distributed by Schiaparelli Picens. They were an old house. Schiaparelli, the woman, you know, not just the house, but the actual woman. There was a woman's name named Schiaparelli. And she competed with Coco Chanel back in the day. They were adversaries. I think Coco Chanel hated her. But it's these two. Whoops, let me fix this. This and this. These are almost like, you know, I would wear these in the same situation. And to be honest, they're not very exciting. They're good. I'm glad to have them because they're vintage and discontinued. But if we're talking exciting, you know, I would just rather wear Darby or Antaeus or something like that. This is not that. This is a little bit fresh. There's a little bit of, you know, greenness coming through. Maybe it's the basil or the coriander or the moss. But it's really an easy to wear masculine old school fragrance, by the way. Nothing challenging in either of those. If you're maybe a beginner to vintage masculines, you could start with those two. Another potential starter to vintage masculines, by the way, from 1991. This is from the house of Jacomo, and it's called Anthracite Porlome. Now, this is a splash that I bought from the Perfume, I believe, back before they jacked their prices up. And this is basically Giacomo's take. No. Oh God. We have a travesty. Oh goodness. I'll get that later. Don't let me forget that, by the way. So this is Giacomo's take on what feels like a bit of a fougere, because it has some citruses at the top. You get bergamot and grapefruit. There's even there's a sweet corn note in here at the top, believe it or not, with marjoram, cyclamen, carnation, Irish jasmine, and lavender in the mid. And then the base is amber, moss, musk, sandalwood, tonka, and cedar. It feels like a more modern fougere, if you will. It feels like Giacomo tried to make a fougere for the 90s, right? Let me grab that piece because it's going to drive me insane if I don't. Okay, I'm back. Hope you entertained yourselves. Yeah, it feels like, you know, they tried to make a modern fougere for the 90s, and there is a nice iris note in here. The florals kind of come into the fragrance and go out, and then they come back in. The lavender is nice. It's a nice fragrance. My thing is, I like my fougères to be sharp and bracing and, you know, that kind of stuff. And this doesn't really fit that category, you know, for a fougere. I'd rather wear Bracken Man by Amouage, something like that, you know, with the bracing clove. And this is just kind of a nice fougere, let's say. Easy to wear, nice. You're probably not going to offend, even though it's a 90s fragrance. This is, you know, there's something in here that reminds me of DK Men from 1994, which is like a grail fragrance for some people. I showed it on my on one of my videos a couple days ago, and it is there's just something, maybe some aroma chemical that this shares with DK Men. The florals, the maybe there's like a little fruitiness in here or something, but it's a good fragrance, but I wouldn't pay crazy money for it personally. I got a pretty good deal on this before they jacked their prices up. Don't pay current prices, by the way. Now, here's one that I think is a great deal, because the prices haven't skyrocketed yet. It's the only fragrance from this house that I would consider owning, and it's a fragrance that's called Cycle by Otto Kern. Now, Cycle is really the only fragrance Otto Kern, the only masculine fragrance Otto Kern had anything to do with. He was a German, designer, and Otto Kern put this fragrance out, and I love this fragrance. I almost wish I had a backup bottle of this fragrance. It's discontinued. But it has, Parfumo says black currant. I don't think it's black currant. I think it's black currant leaf, which is supposed to be, I think it's known as cassia or cassis. It's very pissy, and very bracing and sharp, and I like that. It has exactly what this doesn't have. So this is a summer fragrance to me that's very bracing and sharp. There's green, there's mint, there's citruses, there's some wood. I don't know what kind of wood, maybe some synthetic woods, but it is a beautiful, absolutely beautiful fragrance, and I love wearing this in the summer because it's so refreshing and bracing, and that black currant leaf just gives off this very sharp intro, and it actually lasts. For a citrusy fragrance like this, it really does last, and it's unique. Fantastic fragrance. They did a great job with this. I'm surprised more people aren't talking about this, to be honest with you. This is one of these hidden gems. So I told you, this one is you know. These last two that I showed you, even this one, it's good. But it's not anything I would go run and tell people to buy. This one, though, this Otto Kern Cycle, this is one I would definitely put my stamp of approval on. And it has a little bicycle horn. Ding, 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 ding. Okay. But you get the idea. Fantastic fragrance, though. Deserves more talk. I'm surprised more people don't talk about this, honestly. Especially vintage hunters. Now, another sharp fragrance, and this is a rare beast. This is a, I had to really twist some arms to get this bad boy. This is called Crest, Polo Crest, because it has a crest on the front. And I twisted a lot of arms to get it. This is a Cosmere bottle, and then I got it, and I said, you know what? I think I like just Polo Green better. And this is a good fragrance. I'm not saying it's not a good fragrance, because it is. It has a lot of things that I love. It has basil, bergamot, tarragon, rosemary, and juniper with geranium, jasmine, caraway, carnation, pine, and rose. And then the base is amber, oak moss, leather, musk, patchouli, and cedar. There is a leather note. It's not as prominent as Polo Green. This almost feels like it has some cumin in the opening as well. It's very, the opening is very sharp and very in your face, but not as pleasant to my nose as Otto Kern Cycle. And this is a tester that I bought off of a Nuge, a partial tester. And so, you know, it's, who knows how long, you know, the air has been in the bottle, but it starts out very, it doesn't feel as, to my nose, it doesn't feel as enjoyable as Otto Kern Cycle. They obviously do two different things. This, some people compare as like a lighter version of Polo Green, and I understand why they're saying that. But to my nose, Polo Green is by far the superior fragrance. Warner or Cosmere, as long as you can get a Warner or Cosmere version of Polo Green, you're set. And so I'm glad to have this. I mean, I'm glad to get to try it, and I'll do a review of it one day for you guys. If I could do it all over again, I mean, luckily I got a fairly good deal for the amount of juice. I didn't pay crazy money for this partial, but would I buy it again? No, probably not. Okay, another Anuge fragrance that came my way from 1991. We're going to the house of Lacoste, and this is called Lacoste Land in this beautiful presentation. Now, this is a splash, as you can see, and Lacoste was owned and run by the house of Jean Patou, which meant that their in-house perfumer, was the great Jean Carlio. And I'll tell you what he did with the house of Lacoste. He treated them a little bit like they would treat like a sports section of their fragrance house. So the Lacoste fragrances were more sporty. This is marketed by Sofapar International, I believe. Let's see if I can show you this without spilling juice all over the place. Can you see that? Sofapar International. And this opens up. So to my nose, the closest comparison to this fragrance, if I was talking to a fragrance connoisseur, I would say this reminds me of a sport version of Eau de Hermes, because it has this very citrus spicy thing going on, is what it has. So there's a lot going on in this fragrance. It's complex. There's also vetiver. There is 4 or 5 different types of citruses. There's mandarin orange, grapefruit, Sicilian lemon, Guinea orange, Narrowly, Petit Grand. There's galbanum, so it's a little bit green, but don't think the galbanum like number 19. It's not galbanum focused. It's just there to add depth. And then there's lavender, of course, bourbon vetiver, oak moss absolute, nutmeg, juniper berry, coumarin, lavage, rose, amber, musky notes, sage, and benzoin. So what they've done is they've created this citrus fragrance that when it first hits you, it gives off a feel of a sport flanker of Eau de Hermes. That's really the best way that I can describe it. It is refreshing. It is definitely masculine. I could see somebody hiking a mountain or something wearing this, and it's rare. It's a rare beast. And as you can see, in the old days, they used to put thought and work into something like this. This looks like it would actually go on that hiker's belt or something. You know, like he would carry this as his with his water or something. Amazing presentation, amazing fragrance. But again, we're gonna go back to me being 100% honest with you guys. For someone like me who has hundreds of fragrances, would I buy this again? No, because I would just honestly rather wear Eau de Hermes. And this goes back to the crux of the problem of having hundreds and hundreds of fragrances is I wear fragrances like this now because I own them, because I want to keep my nose fresh and acclimated with the fragrances. I don't wear my favorites as often as I would like to. I end up wearing stuff like this. When I really just want to be wearing Polo Green or Antaeus or, you know, Derby or stuff like that. But I force myself to rotate. So that's something that as your fragrance journey grows, you're going to have to decide which way you want to go. And that's why a lot of people will actually start selling their collection off as it gets bigger so they can focus on the stuff that they really love. What I'm doing is I'm going to just start, and I have been doing it lately, is wearing my favorites. Yesterday I wore Givenchy Gentleman, for example, from 1974. That's one of my favorite fragrances of all time. So I'm just going to start kind of putting a focus on it, if you will, making it a priority to wear, to really make sure to wear my favorite fragrances. Okay, now we are going to go to my favorite Versace fragrance. And this is going to get a lot of wear this summer. It is discontinued again, of course, I'm sorry. But it's a fragrance called Versace Uomo. So the women's version of this is red. The men's version is blue. And this is my favorite Versace fragrance of all time, hands down. I like it better than the Dreamer. I like it better than Versace Man. I like it better than Versace Oud Noir, all that stuff. And what I like about it is think YSL Jazz, think Heritage, think Lacoste Pour Homme, but make it citrusy and powdery because there's orris. There's beautiful orris root here. Beautiful. I mean, what a gorgeous fragrance this is. Absolutely stunning. This is a spring and summer banger for me. There's Brazilian rosewood and rosewood. There's coriander. There's benzoin. There is some vanilla and tonka, but it's just in the base. It's not, you know, this is not a vanilla tonka bomb like this. If you want a vanilla tonka bomb, go for Krazy Krizia. But for the summer, this is an amazing masculine fragrance. I'm so comfortable in this fragrance. You know, there's a certain batch of fragrances that I just feel at home in. You know, fragrances like Derby, Guerlain's Heritage, YSL Jazz, stuff like that. And this falls right into that category. I love this fragrance. Love it. And if I had to back up one Versace fragrance, this would be it. So that's my 1991 list. I know there's fragrances from 1991 that I obviously do not have. If there are fragrances from 1991 that you think I should try to get my nose on, let me know in the comments. Also, if you know, you have any experience with some of these fragrances, if you had feedback with some of these fragrances, do let me know. The Woman's Dune came out in 1991, by the way. I would love to smell that fragrance. I've never smelled it. That's one that's definitely on my list. Elizabeth Taylor White Diamonds came out in 1991. That's another women's fragrance that I would love to get my nose on. So if there's others from 1991 you think I should put on the to sniff list, let me know. So I appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing some time with me. And I will see you guys again tomorrow with another fragrance video. Goodbye.